$10,000 bet on the Kings, who haven't made the playoffs in 16 years, to win the NBA title.
That's insane.
The bettor would win $7.5 million if Sacramento pulls off the impossible. Tim, let me pitch this to you. After they start 3-0, you cash out. That's what you do. They start 3-0, and then you cash out. This man is playing 4K chess, not checkers.
I mean, listen, if this guy wins $7.5 million, he should get $750 million if this guy wins. Because the Kings ain't winning the title.
The $10,000 is what confuses me.
I thought this was going to be, I legitimately thought this was going to be a $10,000 bet the Kings would make the playoffs, which also would be insane.
Or maybe the Los Angeles Kings to win the title. Who knows?
That's right. Maybe they got confused.
KD watch continues, and among the teams that have the pieces to trade for the disgruntled Net star is his former team, the defending champion Warriors. But this is what Steph had to say recently about all the KD to Golden State rumors. Quote, the rumor mill and all that stuff is part of the nature of the NBA and the league. You take it for what it is. You know how quickly things can change, but I like where we're at.
Gee, I wonder why. I just watched them win the championship.
Of course he likes where they're at. He just won the parade. Now, my question for you is this. They do have some pieces that could bring Kevin Durant back to the Warriors. However, one of the things that's so nice about this team is they have a lot of young pieces, they have draft picks, and they have, of course, legendary veterans. Would they do that? Would they sacrifice their future to bring back Kevin Durant?
Bobby Marks said some other things on the show yesterday.
Yes, he did. We'll get back to that later.
One of the things he said yesterday was that I won't rule anything out, so I'll say there's a 1% chance that something like this could happen. I would agree with him. I think there's a 1% chance something like this could happen. But look, Kevin Durant left the Warriors because he wanted to win a championship somewhere else. I don't think it makes a lot of sense for them to trade him and have him go back there and win more there, right? The Warriors are very excited. I was at Summer League. Joe Lacob, the owner of the team, was very fired up watching James Wiseman, Jonathan Kuminga, and Moses Moody play in these Summer League games. They're excited about these young guys. They like the fact that they are starting to build a bridge to the future with those guys, with Jordan Poole alongside Steph and Draymond and Klay Thompson. And while obviously KD was incredible, I was out there for the 2 championships they won, my whole job at the Washington Post. I just don't see why this would make sense really on either side. Obviously, it's not up to Kevin. He's under contract. But for both sides, it doesn't make sense to make this move. Obviously, Kevin Durant's an incredible player, but the Warriors just won without him. They have these young guys for the future. Kevin wants to go somewhere and win. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
I don't see this happening because the Warriors just had so much joy with the way they played basketball before Kevin Durant and after Kevin Durant. And if you remember that last year with Kevin Durant, it didn't have that same like joie de vivre on the court and off the court. So I just can't see this happening. But you mentioned Kevin Durant at the end of what you said. Would he even want this?
No, I don't think so. Like to me, the two teams that never, from the beginning, you said he's not going to there. He wasn't going to the Knicks because there's no way in hell the Nets would trade him to the Knicks, and he's not going to the Warriors because it doesn't make sense for either side for him to go there. So to me, I understand why we're talking about it. It obviously would be a wild storyline if he went back there again. I just don't think it's going to happen.
So Durant was on Twitter yesterday, and he had some really good tweets about legacy and how his legacy is going to change and how other people change their legacy.
I enjoyed it.
So if he moves to another team, whether they win a championship or not, will sort of him in so many different uniforms affect the way people look at his legacy?
Part of the reason I enjoyed what Kevin was doing yesterday is I think the legacy talk is insane.
Thank you.
I think it's insane when it goes to Steph Curry. How much did we hear for the past few years about, Stephen Curry's never won a Finals MVP? Well, who cares, right? He's one of the 10 or 12 best players of all time. Kevin Durant, I keep looking at him on your screen here, he's one of the 10 or 12 best players of all time. The fact that he hasn't won a championship somewhere else, he was on, to me, the greatest team I'll ever see. That Warriors team, with him joining a 73-win team, they were on cruise control and destroyed the league for the next 2 years. Like, that was an unbelievable team, and he was the best player on the team, or at worst, a co-star with, again, another one of the top 10 or 12 players in the history of the sport. So, to me, yeah, obviously, it would be nice for him to win somewhere else, be able to get people off his back about not being a bus driver and all the other stuff that's been said. But This guy is the greatest scorer I've ever seen. He's one of the greatest players of all time. His legacy is going to be secure. In 20 years, we're just going to talk about the incredible scorer and player that Kevin Durant was, and all this other stuff will just be noise.
Quick question. He's under contract for the Brooklyn Nets. So is Kyrie Irving. Why don't they just play basketball for the Nets?
I think there's a very real possibility they will. I mean, if you look at the way this is playing out, they haven't been traded yet, and obviously every day they haven't been traded makes it more likely they're going to be back on the team just because as time goes by, that's the way it's headed. But if you look at how this thing has played out, Jacoby, you don't see the offers coming in that are bowling the Nets over to make a move. So at this point, we're getting to the end of Summer League. Everybody kind of takes a hiatus after that anyway.
Yep.
I think if we get through this week, he could be in Brooklyn for quite a while.
Interesting. Well, amid all the speculation about Kevin Durant's future, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver weighed in on the Brooklyn Nets star requesting a trade from the team. And you'll hear he doesn't love the drama as much as some of the others.
This needs to be a two-way street. Teams provide enormous security and guarantees to players, and the expectation is in return that they'll meet their end of the bargain. I'm realistic that there's always conversations that are going to go on behind closed doors between players and their representatives on teams, but we don't like to see players requesting trades, and we don't like to see it playing out the way it is.
Okay. I love Commissioner Silver. I don't always 100% agree with him. What do you find most interesting about what he had to say about
To
this?
me, the most interesting thing he said in that answer wasn't what he said there, but was what he said right afterward, because I was at the press conference yesterday, which was, we love for the focus to be what's going on the court, right? And we've seen in the past few years, there's been a lot of stories about a lot of the league's best players wanting off of their teams, wanting to be traded somewhere else, holding out, not playing. James Harden, Ben Simmons, Anthony Davis. Now you got the Kevin Durant situation. Going to whatever's going on with Kyrie Irving. There's been a lot of talk about guys being unhappy, guys wanting to play elsewhere instead of focusing on their play on the court. I can understand why Adam says that. At the same time, people have been talking about his league every day for weeks because of what's going on with Kevin Durant and what's going on with Kyrie Irving. So, the NBA certainly is loving that kind of attention too. But look, this has been a growing problem for the league for a while in that they have guys signed to long-term contracts and they are not necessarily meaning what they used to. Now, I don't think this is going to be a Ben Simmons situation where if Kevin isn't traded, he's not going to show up and play. But we saw Ben Simmons try to get out of his contract very early on. We have Donovan Mitchell potentially being traded very early on. We had James Harden traded while under contract. Anthony Davis was under contract. So, this is something that's always gone on in the league, but it's certainly something the league has been paying attention to, and it's something I think we might see them try to address between now and when they probably get a new CBA done with the Players Association in December.
You did a great job listing all of those examples, right? But one of the questions I have for you is, if you're going to, quote unquote, address it, how do you legislate something like this? If someone's unhappy, they don't want to come to work and they're not going to get paid, how do you legislate that?
Right, and this is one of the situations where, the commissioner is a lawyer, and he's a very good lawyer, and he's up there trying to make a case where he's not going to get himself in a tough spot. But at the end of the day, Jacoby, that is sort of what the situation is here, right? The NBA had no problem with the Rockets sending John Wall home and paying him $40-something million last year because the Rockets didn't want to have him around, right? So in some ways, this is an awkward two-way conversation from that standpoint. He's talking about a two-way street in terms of honoring contracts. It's a two-way street in terms of these guys not playing. The year before, Al Horford got sent home for the second half of the season by the Thunder. They were certainly looking to try to get up in the lot.
There he is in the NBA Finals.
That's right.
Just one quick player that hasn't been brought up yet is Bradley Beal. He just signed a long-term deal with the Wizards. However, no one really expects him to play out that contract with the Wizards. Is that the sort of thing that Adam Silver's talking about?
I don't think that's quite the same just because, Bradley Beal signed this long-term deal. He got the most money he could get, and he got a no-trade clause, so he sort of got the ability to control his future. Now, he may be with the Wizards for the next 5 years. We've been talking about potential Bradley Beal trades, it feels like, for 3 or 4 years.
For a decade.
Right? And he's still on the Wizards. So with that no-trade clause, with him there, the Wizards have said they want to have him there. He might be. But ultimately, this is about guys who are asking out of places, not showing up on the court. I mean, Kevin is the current example. This is much more about Ben Simmons, about what happened with James Harden. Anthony Davis sitting out. They don't want star players not being on the court. That's the problem. If guys, Kobe Bryant spent half a season trying to get traded from LA and was on the court every game and then complaining about it after, right? So, if guys are on the court, the NBA is okay with that.
Coming up, we're talking Jimmy G. Is there a trade in his future, or will he return to San Fran and be Trey Lance's backup at the beginning of the season? And our man, Bobby Marks, had the hottest of all hot takes yesterday with his GOAT rankings, where he put Steph Curry ahead of LeBron James at number 2 all time. I can't wait to readdress that.